HTML smuggling, injected iframes, and session theft, all through a transparent proxy, which you're already going, what in the heck did he just say?
That's what you said.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 463 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. What's up, Donna?
Well, you know, I think that I'm having a better day than you.
Yeah, I got a little bit of sinus pressure.
I think it's just that time of year, you know. Some new thing has started blooming and spewing things at you. That's what it is.
That, or I did do some spring cleaning outside the other day, so there's no telling what I probably stirred up and snorted.
Yeah, that's always a concern, right?
Yep, that is correct. But today we're going to be asking the question that everybody wants to know, which is, will your response plan work without internet?
I know. And
some people are like, I can't even get to my response plans without the internet. We're going to talk about that. We've got a new 405D tip of the week. We have some updates on the screenshot saga from Microsoft and some other scary news about some very new, or as they call it, novel, man-in-the-middle attack, which is crazy.
Yes.
And so, we got a lot to cover today. So I want to say thanks for those who listen, who support our show by sending us some love. Leaving us a review.
Man. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Reviews and thumbs up and subscribe and all those other things. So thank you much for all that. All right, let's get into it. Let's go ahead and jump right into the 405D tip of the week.
Yeah, you popped that one in there. I missed it completely.
Yeah, well, it came in the email last week.
Well, it's the 5-part series.
Yeah, in their mini-series. The Infection mini-series, part 2.
and I think it, for some reason, I'm thinking that it might align with the 5 threats. I don't know. But this year is ransomware, or this month, this year. See, we're already off to a great start, folks. It's ransomware. So cool little tips. And it's a poster that you can print out and use.
Yeah.
And it's, our standard security awareness program. So you check it out, you share it, and you're reiterating in a new way, cyber safety is patient safety. And please, people, get it. It's a shared responsibility. It's not an IT thing.
Yeah. And I guess my PSA for today would be, you should be thinking about security before an event. I had a phone call earlier today from not a client. And it was, all of my stuff has been ransomed, including my phones, which probably not, but anyway. And I need to talk to you about security. I'm like, that's like saying, I just had a wreck and totaled my car. I need to talk to you about insurance.
You got a good point there.
Yeah, it's a little late for this one, but maybe we can help you next time around to avoid that. But anyway, as with things that happen like this, we called back and got voicemail.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess they probably found somebody else to jump on it, but it was not us. So,
wow. Dodge a bullet there.
Yeah. Well, some companies do it, some won't do it, but it's very difficult when they're not your client. You don't have anything on their systems to protect them or anything like that. And all of a sudden they just come out of the blue and say, hey, we've got we're right in the throes of a ransomware incident. Can you come and talk to us about? It's like,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, we can, but you've got a mess.
That's like the doctor and this is not years ago, I'll just leave it at that, who their lawyer told them they needed to talk to us. And the doctor literally said, I just need you to make these policies and procedures so I can put them on the shelf. I'm like, are we still there? Because it's after a ransomware attack. Are we still there? Can I just tell all y'all to do this and then I don't have to worry about it anymore?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not how it works anymore.
No. Well, one thing I do like is that I'm starting to see more and more IT firms and MSPs starting to fire clients that don't want to do the bare minimums. They're like, look, it's too much liability. You're not going to do what we ask you to do, or at least consider it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do everything I tell you to do, but at least have some consideration for it and then document what your decision is going to be. If you're not going to do any of that, you don't even want to have a conversation about it, go find somebody else. I mean, really, you're just not, you're too much liability and you're not a good client. So if that's you, I'm sorry. But we were seeing that
those
more and
people
more.
aren't listening to this.
Yeah, I was about to say we're talking to the wrong people, but they are out there, and I'm glad that we're seeing other. I mean, it's not just MSPs. You're starting to see insurance companies saying, no, we're not doing business with you.
Yeah, we're not going to cover you.
Yeah, I would love to see, I'd love to see patients doing that. No, we're not going to be your patient. If you can't prove that you're doing the minimum necessary, at the very least, you're not getting my healthcare business.
Well, I've been looking for, when I look for a new provider, I've been looking for a new specialist, and I'm on the website and I'm like, okay, your qualifications look good. Sounds like the referrals I'm getting are good. And then I get to the page that says, don't worry, we are HIPAA compliant.
They're certified.
And I'm like, if you're HIPAA compliant, I can't make myself get beyond that. And it's like, if I send an email saying, could you fix that? What is it they're going to fix? So everything about it looks great right up to that point. And I'm like, but I don't want you to be perfect. It could just be a typo, but there were other indications once I spotted that it's probably not just a typo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So there's your warning and your public service announcement for today. And that brings us into an update on the screenshot saga from Microsoft, because there is not a day that has gone by that I have not seen additional news on that.
Yeah.
And so I sent this one over to you. I don't even remember what day it was. Friday, maybe. But I think Microsoft has decided, at least for now, until the next update, that they're going to make the AI feature that captures screenshots every few seconds on your computer that we've mentioned already. They're going to turn it off by default instead of turning it on by default.
It's part of Copilot now. It's not part of like all things in Windows. It's part of Copilot, right?
Right. Yeah, you have to have the Copilot enabled PC, which they're just now starting to sell those.
Yeah.
So I think they call it Copilot plus PC or something like that. They'll come up with some fancy name for it. But yeah, you're just now able to get those. I think you can get the Microsoft version of hardware for those now, but places like Dell and all that, you have to pre-order them. They haven't, so they're just now coming out with that. But yeah, these computers have an NPU, which is different now, a neural processing unit, so that they actually do a lot of the AI function locally there on the device. And, that's when
whoever thought that was a good idea, though. It's like they do not need to be at that level of decision making with that little knowledge, because the backlash was immediate and intense.
Yeah, especially when you've got all these other agencies screaming, security by design, security first, security. I mean, and then they come out and go, Just trust us.
Yeah. Forget about that security thing. We got this.
Yeah.
Hold my beer.
We're HIPAA compliant. Yeah, I know. It's I'm glad they did it. I hope they stays that way. But here's the other thing. Like I said, I made a joke about, until the next update, because an update has been known to turn things back on or to turn things off.
And then, our bad.
Right. So what you're going to have to do is when these PCs roll out and your organization start buying them, and at some point you're going to have them regardless, because you're not going to be able to find one that's not.
Yeah.
It's like trying to get a car with a carburetor. You're not going to find one. So, but you'll have to add this to your monthly checks or whatever it is that you do, just to make sure that these things stay turned off. I wish you could just remove them completely, but that's not going to happen.
Well, and that's why, look, with AI, well, if this thing's going to be able to do local AI, I should be able to tell it, okay, I want you to make sure that all of the things that would open me up for any regulatory concerns, identity theft, any kind of those things, I want you to give me what those options are and let me know if they change.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Why can I not do that?
We'll see. I hope you can. But again,
the other one though that you sent me was nowhere near as like, oh yeah, we kind of knew that was going to happen. But this new one, this is I'm just going to take a deep breath over it.
This one's interesting, and honestly, if you try to read what it is, it's very, very technical. So I'll try to dumb it down. I mean, even I couldn't even understand half of it. So I
had to go look up a couple of things.
So I was
are they talking about blah, 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 blah? Wait a minute. Which one of the, I had to do that a couple of times.
Yeah. So this come in from, this was an alert from Huntress, and basically they have discovered or had discovered a phishing campaign that basically combined HTML smuggling, injected iframes, and session theft, all through a transparent proxy, which you're already going, what in the heck did he just say?
That's what you said.
And see, when, in reading that, I'm like, okay, I understand all the parts, but I don't understand how they all fit together. But basically, an iframe is something you can embed into a website. So think of it like, I don't know, like
it's like a web page inside a web page.
Yeah, like a window kind of thing. But so you can do that. But what they've done is, basically, if they send you this link, and again, it all starts in the email. If they send you this link and you click on it, it's going to take you to the Microsoft login page, and it is the legit login page for Microsoft. But it opens it up into a injected iframe through a proxy. So you think you're just going directly to Microsoft's page, but you're not. But when you log in, it lets you log in, and it presents you with your 2FA or your MFA. And you put that in, and it lets you in. It's like, there's nothing wrong. The problem is everything you're doing is flowing through this proxy, and it's taking all that information to include your MFA token.
Yep.
And now MFA is no longer valid for you.
Mm-hmm. All bets are off.
Not good.
And I mean, those things are getting scary. And this gets back to, it is sophisticated now. Mm-hmm. All of them are sophisticated. If you're getting hit now, it's either very sophisticated or you just don't even care. You don't even try.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing in between. And so we're going to assume it's usually sophisticated. I think that's our best bet.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing is like they're running the web page within a web page with things that are written in the code where you don't know you're not running what you're running, what you think you're running. You don't know you are running it, but you're not running it where you think you're running it in the way you think you're running it.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is indeed.
It's terrifying is what it is. Again,
Well,
I told you earlier today, I'm ready to retire this job. I just can't think about it anymore.
air gap your computer from the internet.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. If you don't have the internet, nothing matters, right?
Oh, man. So, for those folks too I just had this presentation last week, and the title of the presentation was, "You don't have anything anybody wants."
And everybody's like, yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. And then I, proceed to tell them all the things that, they do have that people want. And I'm not talking about, it's your bank account and your other stuff. I'm talking about it's the access that you have to other things and other people. And the fact that you have
a computer.
Yeah, you can become part of a botnet and all this other stuff. And then it was funny because I had one person go, I never thought about that, but somebody's been, they work in the financial industry, and says somebody's been really hammering my dad, my 80-something-year-old dad, trying to get him to fall for phishing. And she's like, I wonder if they're after me. I was like, it very well could be, It's like somebody called me the other week and they were like, we'd love to take headshots for all your staff to put on your website. And I'm like, no, I don't want the criminals to see who works for me, who they can try to either phish or who they can try to act like they are and call my clients, hey, I'm so-and-so.
Oh, they're going to be they are already able to do that. I just gave up on that. There's some of it you can fend off now, but it's either I am not proud of my business. I'm hiding. Mm-hmm. This is what it looks like. I'm hiding over here in the corner is the way that you end up looking like to the people, or they already know. There's nothing in between.
Okay. I guess I'm hiding.
Mm-hmm. Well, but with the name of your company, you could get away with saying we hide.
Yeah, we try to hide. Even there's some of the marketing efforts. Like a lot of people just like, here's all of our clients we do business with. And I'm like, I'm scared to do that. I don't really want to do that. Like I don't want to tell everybody that, and then they'll list like, here's all the vendors we have relationships with. I'm like, great. You just told me clients you use, the antivirus software that you use, the router brands that you use. I know everything at that point.
It's absolutely terrifying when people start sharing all that.
Yeah. So anyway, scary stuff.
Yeah. So now that we've made everybody go, I'm done with this. Let's tell you some more scary stuff. This is why people aren't certain when we say that the Hiccup 5 threats area is attacks on connected devices. Why we care. Mm-hmm. 2 critical medical vulnerability advisories for Baxter products this week. And Baxter makes a ton of products, granted. But this one is, in particular, the one that's a little scary is the Connect Spot Monitor. So there's 2 different ones, and the Spot Monitor is a device that is it picks up the vital signs and automatically transmits them into the EHR. So you don't have the risk of anybody entering things incorrectly, right? Mm-hmm. But you're assuming the computer's going to do it correctly. And there's where the flaw is. The minute that device is, not working correctly, and they have found 2 vulnerabilities between that and then a configuration tool. So not clear. I didn't go into all the details because we have enough scary stuff to go through this week. But the thing is, one of them has a patch right now you can load. But the other won't have one until Q3 2024.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah. So if those devices are in use, they don't know of anybody actively targeting them. Great. Let's don't find out.
Yeah, but once the vulnerability is, published,
If they can get to it. But the vendor and CISA have outlined there's a sector alert that has mitigations and workarounds. So check it out. It was part of the HC3 alert, but I brought it up because so often it's those devices that everybody kind of ignores. And we've been trying to get them to recognize like the IoTs and the Alexas and all this other stuff. But every cool little piece of electronics in the, medical offices and hospitals could be a connected device. And this particular thing where they come wheel in a little cart, do all your vitals, and it transmits it to the EHR. They don't enter anything. Okay, so now what's in the EHR may or may not be correct.
Yep.
Assuming it was attacked. I'm not saying that the vulnerability makes it that way, but just know that. And so that brings us to our big thing, which also talks about the devices people forget about and how important they are.
Yeah. So here we go. Will your response plan work without the internet?
No internet. Like
None.
Like not
No
go to your
hotspot.
neighbor's internet. Not my redundant internet. Not,
Sneaker net.
if you could have smatterings of this, and your incident response plan would probably, there's a lot of different ways you could do things. But a lot of people, especially now, their business continuity plan is people will work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this story just blows that right on out of the water, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Depending, but yeah. It makes you start asking questions like, if you're going to work from home, we need to know what type of equipment that you have.
I know. And everybody's like, I don't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just know this is why we suggest that you consider strongly putting this in. You've got to understand more about what's happening in your community when your business is actually running out in your community.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your business is operating within the walls anymore. It's actually operating out in the community.
Yeah. I made a comment earlier today on a consulting call, and I said something about there are people working from home, and the guy said, well, we're not going to be able to control their network security. And I'm like, you're right.
That is correct.
You will not.
Well, the big picture thing here is a story that's come out. It's just a few weeks ago. Lumen Technologies, they're Black Lotus Labs. So they're security researchers, and these folks are sitting out there all the time watching for crazy stuff going down a rabbit hole to see where that leads. And they have published a report, and I love the name of it. They call the event the Pumpkin Eclipse. Come on, that's fun. Because it happened at the end of October last year. So, end of October of last year. And we're going to get into why we're talking about it now and why the report just came out in just a second. But what you need to know is for 72 hours from October 25th to the 27th, during that time, more than 600,000 the SOHO, as we call it, small office, home office, basically the routers that most people would have high-speed internet in their homes. It's where, some small businesses have them. 600,000 of those were just broken. They weren't going to work anymore.
Yep. As we call it, they were bricked.
Yeah. I started to just say bricked, and then I'm like, so. And people will say, oh, it's bricked. And I'm like, no, bricked means it is impossible to bring it back up and running.
Mm-hmm.
It can be down and not functioning, but it's still possible to bring it back up and running. Bricked means it's useless from now on. forever. It is a brick. So this group, they take us through, they did an investigation because they saw some weird stuff happening. And they did all of these tracking and evaluation, and they were able to check and track and see that here's what they learned, that it involved 3 specific router models. 2 of them are Action Tech, and 1 is Sagem.com. I don't know how that is. But Sagem.com. It's probably what it is. Sagem.com. Anyway, so these particular routers were all being hit and going down. 600,000 of them. But the way that it was being taken down, they couldn't even track because it destroyed them.
Oh gosh!
I mean,
was this the one?
Huh?
Was this the one that was? It was the routers from the ISP itself, right?
Yeah. So that's the next piece. Is they started trying to figure out what was going on and realized, wait a minute, it's not just these routers, because it's not happening to these routers everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's only happening to these routers with this ISP.
Man, you talking about help desk going crazy?
Mm-hmm.
600,000 people calling in. I don't have the internet.
Yeah. And so they track it down and they see, well, it's these specific routers, but not only that, it's these specific routers with this specific internet service provider and in these specific parts of their network.
Wow.
So not like all of them, just big chunks of them. And you might ask, well, why haven't we heard from the internet service? Because there's no law that makes them explain it.
Yeah.
Number 1. Number 2 is, they can claim they don't know what happened. It was just a bad update or whatever.
Man,
but
I'd love to have been the sales guy who got that call. We need to replace 600,000 devices.
I know, right?
Yeah. The first person that got that email threw it in the trash. They were like, "This is a scam."
Yeah, that's not it. Well, if you were the person in charge of making sure that happened, you knew you'd better call.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a contact somewhere at some vendor.
Yeah. I better call and say, this is not a joke.
Yeah, but even that, do vendors have 600,000 devices laying around to sell at one time?
No. But that's my whole thing is there's so many layers to this. So first of all, I've got an internet service provider and only certain devices on only certain segments of their network, this ASN, and then you go down a whole path about how the routers are different. It becomes a very deep rabbit hole when you start to read how this worked. But a certain ISP and certain segments of the network that use these 3 devices, all of them get bricked and they have to be replaced. Over 600,000 devices. So that's 600,000 networks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they may be home networks, but it's still 600,000 networks that are down. They can't do things. So the point was, first of all, they brought up that they really published this report because they felt this was unique for 2 reasons. One is that it was particular network provider to particular routers. It wasn't all, normally we'll see a vulnerability in a router and then every router like that is being hit.
Mm-hmm.
So what vulnerability did they find to be able to hit these specific routers? Because they weren't ever able to recover how they were doing it. They knew certain pieces of it, that it was being wiped from the drive and it was running in memory but the actual piece, the part that was launching, they're not able to track that back to who was doing it. So, they could say, no, it wasn't. It was a problem on our network. It may have been, but the way it was happening, it was done maliciously is what their point is. But the big thing here is this is something like this has only happened one time before. One previous time. It happened in Ukraine before Russia started their military invasion in February 2022.
Are you making a connection here?
All I'm saying is they're saying it's happened one other time. Anything remotely like this. One other time. And
we'll have a run on toilet paper again.
I know, right? Who knows? I mean, Russia's involved. It could be anything. But at that time, it was using some malware they called acid rain. Mm-hmm. Right? And they used it to shut down networks all over Ukraine as they're invading so that, it helped them. So that's bad enough. This has only happened one other time, but we still don't know who did this. But it's almost like they were testing something. You know what I mean? Because all it did was destroy this one ISP, and it did it okay. So when I see something like that, and there doesn't seem to be any money involved, other than if it was the companies that made the routers, that would be the only way I could come up with. If the companies that made the routers did that on purpose so that you would buy more routers, but why would it only be on this one ISP's network? So that makes no sense either. Okay, so there's always something more to it when these things happen. And the way they did it, and that they weren't, and no one's claimed that they did it, and they couldn't track back to who did it. These researchers couldn't, but they got a lot of detail. Well, take all of that, and the one other time anything remotely like this occurred, why it occurred, and then add in one other little piece. There's recent articles that there's a new variant of acid rain that they're calling acid pour. Just in the last couple months, somebody noticed it. And as one article put it, it's a significantly broader range of targets that this acid pour can attack than acid rain could. So, I mean, we've got links to the article so you can go see for yourself about acid rain and how they used it, how it was used by Russia before. And then we have acid pour, which is a even more destructive variant than the one they used in Ukraine. And then we see this happening with the routers in October. So they said, hey, we're going to call this Pumpkin Eclipse. Maybe everybody will look because that's a fun name.
Indeed it is.
But, the reason no one's had to say anything about it, there's no law that requires you to do it. And by most, if you're going to be shocked to find out that these companies, if they don't have a law that's requiring them to do it, and even sometimes if they do have a law, they avoid it. So if there's nothing that requires them to do that, they're not going to bring that up and get any more bad press. Mm-mm. And this is flying under the radar now because it's, months and months later, 6 months or over 6 months later. And Ars Technica they were doing research on a major event that was occurring with Windstream Windstream customers, who is, ironically, an ISP. Mm-hmm. And they say that they have been able to match up all of their tracking of what was going on with Windstream, where, the customers were talking about everything being down and having to get new routers, lines up perfectly with what these researchers saw with this attack. So they feel pretty confident. And in Ars Technica, they said, this was a quote from that article, in the messages, which appeared over a few days beginning on October 25th. Many Windstream users blame the ISP for the mass bricking First of all, mass bricking.
Yeah, I don't know that we've seen that.
I know, right? Mass bricking. They said it was the result of the company pushing updates that poison the devices. Well, yes, something poisoned the devices. That's clear. How did it get there? And only on theirs and only on those routes. I mean, there's too many variables that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular Windstream's broadband service, and it's up in North Georgia where I'm from. I mean, that's why I knew of the name. 1.6 million subscribers in 18 states.
Yeah, we've got Windstream, not in the area I'm in, but just north of this area.
And in a lot of those places, that's your only option. You don't have another option.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what you can have. You don't get anything else. Nothing. And a quote here is what brought it to my attention to say that we should bring this up for people to really think about the impact. When a subscriber wrote in the forum, we have 3 kids, both work from home. This has easily cost us $1,500+ in lost business, no TV, Wi-Fi's out, hours on the phone, and it's so sad that a company can treat customers like this and not care.
See, I was still stuck with we've got 3 kids and both work from home.
Yeah. Boom. And that was in October, man. So after eventually determining the routers were permanently unusable, Windstream sent new routers to affected customers. So that's what they knew was going on. You tie that with what the Black Lotus folks found, and okay, you're going to tell me it's not that, is basically what Ars Technica is saying. And you know, Windstream has no comment.
Yeah. Which means it was them.
And for the first time in years, I had no internet for like 36 hours. I was like, my systems my internal brain was like, you mean I got to figure out new ways to do this now? I'm doing things that I couldn't do without this. So now how am I going to do it?
Yeah.
And unlike most people, you and I have the ability to say our business continuity plan is all employees know, first and foremost, make sure you and your family are safe. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is get to an internet connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Wherever you have to go, get to an internet connection. Somehow, somewhere, whatever it may be, to check in. That's it. And then, we have that's where we start. We have other things that work beyond that, but those are the 2 things. Step 1, step 2. And everybody will check in, and we have our methods. So there's a lot of things that have to be completely down before we wouldn't be able to do that. But you might have to go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And we got batteries, we got all this other stuff so that we can use personal hotspots to get to an internet connection. If I can get to a signal that works, I've got battery backups, I've got all those things, and I have my personal hotspot. Great, I can do that. I don't count on a massive number of people in the community being able to work from home on a wired connection.
Yeah.
I can't even comprehend, let's say every doctor's office and the hospital in your rural area has no access to the internet. There's a lot of things that are going to happen real quick.
Yeah.
And
that's when you start to realize what all's connected.
Well,
I didn't know that was connected.
Yeah. And it's not just, they'll get it back up and running soon. It's down. For 72 hours, this is going on, and more is going down. More are going down and shutting down over the 72-hour period. They're being shut down intermittently. It's just spreading. And now I've got to get a new equipment to all of those places in order to bring it back up.
Mm-hmm.
So how many people, when you sit down and talk to them about their incident response plan, well, we work from home. That's the first. There's a very first one. Well, we tested our incident response plan with the snowstorm, or our business continuity plan after we had the snowstorm. That's what we used to say in Atlanta all the time, because everybody had to work from home. Okay, great. What if none of them can, and that's what you need them to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the snowstorm, and not only is the power off, the power's up and running rather, but the internet is gone at their house.
Yeah. Our business continuity plan is we go to the office.
See, but it is something that I don't think enough people, we always say, and when we just talked about doing your risk analysis last week, and we said don't minimize.
Mm-hmm.
You hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Right.
And that's the same thing with your incident response plan. Your incident response plan should coincide with your security risk analysis. It should inform what big things you should worry about. Mm-hmm. And definitely a widespread power outage is one, but also a widespread internet. But then you make it even more complicated and add in the variable that the hardware is dead.
Here's the challenge, though, because I had this conversation earlier today. It's about something different, but it still fits. And I told the guy, I said, I don't want to hear you tell me that it's never happened and therefore it's not a concern. Because if you would have had that conversation with me in 2019 about the pandemic, I might would have agreed with you. Mm-hmm. That we've never had a pandemic where everything shuts down and everybody gets sent home. So I'm not worried about it. But now after that, it's not a matter of, well, it's never happened and we're not really worried about it. Now it's a matter of, well, it's never happened, but I still worry about what the risk is for that. And I need to understand what the impact's going to be and bring that down to an acceptable level. Mm-hmm. Now let's have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't just say, I'm going to accept that risk anymore. Mm-mm. That's been proven now.
Yeah. So, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, but, it only happened that one time to that one ISP. Consider yourself lucky you weren't one of the ones, and then go ahead and have a plan for it.
Yeah. And in this case, it wasn't directly related to something else happening. Mm-hmm. Which is, one of the reasons that they're bringing this up is the only other time this happened, it was directly related to another big thing happening.
Right. Yeah. Is this a precursor?
Is this a test run to see how it would work in a specific environment? And how long would it take? And how far spread would it be? Because it was pretty successful in my book.
Yeah. That's true.
So if you look at it that way, it could have been something a hacktivist or disgruntled person that wanted to specifically attack that company. But that's a pretty sophisticated person that is holding that kind of grudge.
Yeah.
That's
true.
I'm gonna go with there's a sophisticated attack that was tested. Seems way more likely than somebody got mad at Windstream and did that, or somehow Windstream screwed up and managed to update 3 different models of routers because they would all have different firmware.
Yep.
So,
yeah, just go with the simplest solution. That's probably the answer.
Mm-hmm. KISS. I have enough evidence, and that's kind of the way the Black Lotus lab that did this report. They're like, we have enough evidence that this happened, and it was done with malicious intent. Mm-hmm. Somebody should know about it.
Yeah.
So we're going to publish an article about what we found so that other people, we can discuss it, And Ars Technica is like, there was clearly a big problem with Windstream back in October, but we couldn't get anybody to tell us anything. And, it kind of fizzled out. And then it's like, A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
So keep in mind that you should have on your radar. I don't know if you can get to that detail in an incident response plan, that's a little much. But you should not assume that my incident response, it's like the folks that say my incident response plan is business continuity. I'm going to go to paper. That's all I have to do. There's no further information, no further details. Where are you going to get all that paper? What are you going to do with the paper? How many people in your office have functioned on the paper? After you have the paper, how are you going to get the paper back in? How are you going to secure and organize the paper when you're creating the paper? And oh, by the way, you're going to do this for a few days. If you're lucky, it's only a few days, not a few weeks. So you don't just say, well, we'll go to paper.
Yeah.
You know, the same thing happens here of, oh, everybody just work from home. They can't. So, there you have it. We have done nothing but go and say, wow, I'm not going to sleep tonight.
All righty. There you go. There's your distressful messages for the day. Take those and crawl in the corner. And but yeah,
you're welcome. That's what you're welcome.
But which is why people like us and in our industry just get so frustrated when nobody does anything. When everybody sits around and is like, yeah, just give it to me so I can put it on the shelf. Or, you know, I'm not interested in doing that. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because it interferes with other people. Like if you want to do something that only affects you, go right ahead.
Yeah.
But when it affects other people, you should take better consideration.
I concur.
All right. Very good. All right, folks, that's our show for today. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media website. And be sure to rate this podcast and give us a review, thumbs up, subscribe, share, all those things that make us rich YouTubers. We appreciate it. And for Donna and myself, remember, HIPAA's not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with hip-hop. Let's get it right. Protect your patients day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with hip-hop. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.